Egypt just sold 170 square kilometers of its Mediterranean coastline. Not leased, not licensed, sold for $35 billion. In return, it gets promises. A luxury city with ports, resorts, tech districts, even its own airport. But this isn't just urban planning. It's what happens when a country runs out of money and starts selling its land to survive. So what is Ras Al Hekma really? A megacity that could transform Egypt's future, or a deal that gave too much away? To understand why Egypt made a $35 billion deal with the UAE, you have to start with the numbers. By 2023, Egypt's public debt had reached nearly 95% of GDP. The Egyptian pound had collapsed from 15 to nearly 50 per dollar in just 2 years. And on the black market, it was even worse. For many Egyptians, basic groceries became unaffordable. And while all this was happening, the government was still spending, especially on megaprojects. In 2015, it launched the new administrative capital, a futuristic city in the desert meant to modernize the country. But Phase 1 alone burned through 500 billion Egyptian pounds, roughly $10 billion at the time, and ran years behind schedule. Instead of boosting the economy, it added fuel to Egypt's growing debt spiral. By 2024, nearly half of all government revenue was going toward debt payments. And then came the external shocks. Tourism never recovered after COVID. Suez Canal revenue dropped by $6 billion in 2024 due to Red Sea shipping attacks. Remittances from Egyptians abroad slowed down. By late 2023, Egypt had just $35 billion in foreign reserves and nearly $30 billion in short-term debt coming due. That meant there wasn't enough money to pay for imports or interest. The clock was ticking. And that's where the UAE stepped in. But to understand what the UAE was really buying, we need to look at where that deal was made. Follow the North Coast Highway west of Alexandria. For nearly 200 kilometers, it runs along an open stretch of untouched shoreline until you reach Ras Al Hekma. This land sits between kilometer markers 178 and 220, about 70 kilometers east of Marsa Matruh. On paper, it's just another part of the Western Desert. But in practice, it's some of the most scenic, valuable, and underdeveloped Mediterranean real estate in the country. For generations, it was Bedouin farmland, producing figs and olives that thrive in the dry coastal climate. Matruh province still supplies 17% of Egypt's olives and over a quarter of its figs. Most of that comes from small family plots, including those near Ras Al Hekma. In the summer, Egyptians came for the beaches, white sand, turquoise water, and quiet coves. But there were no airports, no luxury hotels, and no major infrastructure. That's what made it attractive. Close enough to Alexandria to be accessible, but far enough to build something completely new. And unlike Egypt's crowded Red Sea resorts, this stretch of the Mediterranean was almost entirely untouched. That's what the UAE saw, not just coastline, potential. On this newly sold land, the plan is to build an entirely new city, Ras Al Hekma. It spans 170 square kilometers, a vast area nearly one-fifth the size of Abu Dhabi, and one of the largest urban footprints ever attempted on Egypt's Mediterranean coast. The city is divided into 11 districts, each designed with its own theme, from luxury waterfronts to cultural enclaves and inland tech hubs. Every part of the plan is meant to feel distinct, to avoid the uniform sprawl often seen in fast-tracked megaprojects. Development will happen in 3 broad zones. Along the coast, developers are planning high-end resorts, beach clubs, cruise terminals, and private marinas. The midsection of the site will incorporate more residential elements with architectural nods to the Bedouin heritage of the area. Further inland, the plan shifts to commerce, logistics zones, light industry, and corporate campuses designed to attract foreign firms and create jobs. Visually, the renders show polished beaches, glossy hotels, and modern plazas, more Mediterranean Riviera than Middle Eastern desert. But these images only show what the finished project might look like. The reality is far more complex. The site currently lacks almost all baseline infrastructure. Every utility system, roads, power, water, sewage, broadband, has to be built from scratch. The first phase of development covers 50 million square meters and is being led by Modern Holding, a company backed by Abu Dhabi's sovereign investment fund. Each zone within this first phase is expected to come pre-equipped with independent power and water networks, enabling modular rollout. Alongside the urban core, a new international airport is under construction, as well as a seaport capable of receiving both container ships and cruise liners. The dock is expected to be among the longest in the region, underscoring the scale of ambition for global trade and tourism. If everything goes according to plan, Ras Al Hekma could eventually become home to 2 million people. Egypt's government says it hopes to attract at least $150 billion in total investment over the next 2 to 3 decades. Official projections estimate the city could contribute up to $25 billion to national GDP each year and support hundreds of thousands of direct and indirect jobs. But these are future targets. As of now, this is still a remote patch of Mediterranean coastline, quiet, undeveloped, and far removed from Egypt's existing urban core. Turning it into a functioning city will take not just money, but time, coordination, and a level of execution few countries have ever achieved at this scale. Even with billions in funding and a master plan on paper, Ras Al Hekma will be extremely difficult to build. And the biggest challenge isn't architectural, it's logistical. The site is remote. It sits over 300 kilometers from Alexandria, Egypt's nearest major city. That's where most labor, equipment, and materials will need to come from. With no large towns nearby, almost everything has to be hauled in daily along a coastal highway, one that wasn't built for megaproject scale supply chains. Wind is another problem. The north coast is exposed to strong, persistent gusts that shift sand and erode surfaces. It means roads, buildings, and even temporary structures need to be reinforced against soft, unstable ground and environmental wear. There's also no working seaport, yet. For now, even the heaviest materials have to arrive by truck. Until the port and quay are complete, the project is dependent on road access for everything from steel beams to cement. Then there's the water problem. This stretch of coastline has no fresh water sources. 4 desalination plants are planned, but desalination is energy intensive. That means new power plants must be built too, along with the fuel logistics and grid connections to support them. And that's just the utilities. Sewage, electricity, internet, roads, all have to be built from scratch across 170 square kilometers. Every system a modern city needs starts at zero here. But the hardest challenge may be people. Ras Al Hekma is supposed to house 2 million residents. Today, it has almost none. Turning it into a living, working city means more than building homes and offices. It means convincing families and businesses to move to a place with no history, no local economy, and no community yet. The deal came together fast, and it's massive. The United Arab Emirates, through its sovereign fund ADQ, committed $35 billion to Egypt, but not all of that is new money. Roughly $24 billion will go directly toward developing Ras Al Hekma. The remaining $11 billion was already held by Egypt's central bank as UAE deposits. Instead of calling it a loan, that money is being released, essentially erased from Egypt's external debt obligations and reclassified as investment. In return, ADQ gets 65% of the project. Egypt holds the remaining 35%. That balance of ownership means one thing. Abu Dhabi leads. ADQ will make the key decisions about land use, construction timelines, and how profits are distributed. Egypt's stake gives it visibility, but not control. The transfer was fast. ADQ pledged to deliver the full $35 billion within 2 months. That urgency tells you a lot. Egypt desperately needed hard currency, and the UAE wanted to move quickly before the window closed. This isn't just a real estate deal. It helped unlock an IMF agreement, enabled a long-delayed currency devaluation, and stabilized Egypt's black market exchange rate for now. But it also handed majority control of a strategic slice of the Mediterranean to a foreign partner, and that comes with trade-offs. Ras Al Hekma could change Egypt's future, or reshape who controls it. The UAE gets a stake in one of the Mediterranean's most valuable coastlines. Egypt gets cash, infrastructure, and a chance to recover. But that recovery comes at a cost. This is more than a city. It's a sign of how far a country might go when the economy runs out of options. Will the benefits reach everyday Egyptians, or is this deal made for someone else? Let us know what you think, and if you want more stories about mega projects shaping our world, subscribe to MegaBuilds. We'll see you in the next one.